Okay, it's time for a story. See, my experience with Star Wars is super weird. Before I played any of the video games, before I read any of the comics, before I saw any of the movies, my first Star Wars was the Thrawn Trilogy. I had an English teacher who had like a bunch of the Star Wars novels just available to read and to borrow. He had his own library and it was really cool. And the Thrawn Trilogy was my first interaction with Star Wars. Kinda weird, I know, kind of backwards, but that's how it went. And ever since I first read those books, I knew that there was a comic book adaptation of that story, and I wanted it so bad. Because, like, I love Star Wars, and the Thrawn Trilogy being, like, my genesis into Star Wars, my entry into it, that was cool, and I love comic books. I wanted it in a comic book form. Problem is, it was really hard to find. Until one day, Marvel finally re-released it as part of an Epic collection. I believe it was the New Republic Volume 4. And I was so excited that I found this, and I'm like, sweet, this is it. This is the Thrawn Trilogy. This is my first Star Wars. This is huge. And so I picked it up and I read it, and oh my goodness, I loved this book so much. But that's when the tragedy hit. I just got out of school. I was stuck working like 3 or 4 different short-term temp jobs, part-time gigs, and none of them paid me very well, and I still could not just afford to live. It was rough, it was scary, and I was anxious and depressed the entire time. And one day I could not make rent, and it was driving me nuts. And so I saw that my Thrawn Trilogy collection was going for about $200 on the secondhand market. And I had to get everything I could, so I had to sell it, and that really broke my heart. Especially because, like, I'm going to have to sell it, and I can't get that back. That's an expensive book. But then something amazing happened. A miracle, call it a tender mercy, happened, and oh, this made me so happy. I was looking at the Marvel catalog at my local comic shop, and they announced that they were making a Volume 2 omnibus of the New Republic, these old legend stories. And included in this huge, gigantic volume, like, this is over 1,000 pages of comic book. Inside this huge thing wasn't only the Thrawn Trilogy, but its contemporary competitor story, Dark Empire. And I'm like, holy cow, that's so cool. It has all the stories in between and around those two, huge monuments to just how good the old Star Wars pre-Disney canon could be. And it was all in one volume, and I got it, and it made my soul happy. So I guess if there's a moral to the story, it's that tender mercies are all around you, right? Like those tiny little things that help make life a little bit more bearable. They're always happening. They're always around you. And if you look for that and you express gratitude for those things get better. Things will improve. Things always will get better. And you'll get past the dark times. Kind of like Star Wars. You'll get past the dark times, you'll move into this New Republic era full of really cool stories that change people's lives.